Welcome to the Dr. Donna podcast, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 141, Words Matter. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
I'm Dr. Donna, and welcome to my podcast. Today I want to talk about verbal abuse, or words matter. I've talked about this before when I was going through the what is child abuse, and I talked about the fact that verbal abuse is as powerful and as destructive to children as any other kind of abuse, and it's overlooked and ignored a lot of the time. But I bring it back up because I noticed that one of the PSAs on TV was called, they talked about words matter. And I couldn't agree more. But I've always realized this. And when you think about it in terms of yourself as an adult, how it feels when people call you names or tell you that you don't matter, that you're incompetent, that, in ways that are demeaning to you as an adult. It feels bad. It feels like somebody's stabbing you. Or if you see children, playing and somebody's bullying one of them, you can hear the words that are being used. You can see that the child is just bending over and with pain. Words matter, and verbal abuse is as powerful as any other kind of abuse. One of the reasons I bring it up today too, as well, is that there's been a shift in how we deal with children who are, who are abusive to other children. And, it used to be that if there was a bully on the playground, the bully on the playground got called out. Sometimes you'd, sit down with them, explain to them that it was inappropriate, ask them what was going on. And we really don't do that much anymore. What we tend to do is we tend to take the child who's being bullied and focus on them, which we also need to do. Because, if you are, if you're a child and you're getting bullied, you need to hear from adults that they care about you and that whatever's going on, needs to be addressed. But, I've just noticed, okay, this is just me now. I've just noticed that rather than trying to deal with the interactional problem and the bully and the victim and all that kind of stuff, we tend to take the kid out of the situation, put them in a different school, put them in a private school, homeschool them, whatever. And it's like, that doesn't help children. Children need to be able to deal with life on life's terms. It's called resilience. They need to be able to develop resilience. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something that you attain by dealing with conflict, with pain, with, like living life on life's terms. By trying to remove any potential conflict, that is not useful to children because they do not become resilient. And, verbal abuse is not acceptable, but helping somebody to learn how to talk about their emotions, their feelings is very useful. Even for the bully. I mean, find out why they're doing what they're doing. Chances are pretty good it's happening to them. Because crap rolls downhill, the bully's bullied, they bully somebody else, makes them feel better. And as adults, we need to be able to step in and help that child who's being bullied as well as the one who is being victimized. Not to focus on, we've got this kid who's been victimized. Now we need to focus all our energy on them. It's not working out that way. And that's not really how it works anyway. The child who is verbally abused by adults is a different story. Okay? So verbal abuse is like screaming at somebody in their face. And I'm talking about adults to children now. Okay? So screaming in a child's face, calling them names, ridicule a child, using sarcasm. And sarcasm is really emotional insincerity. Okay? So like if I'm being sarcastic, the words might sound not problematic at all, might be basic. But then when you look at the emotion behind it, you can feel it. You can feel the anger coming out or the emotion that's not being spoken. And usually it is anger. Like I said, ridicule or listening to that happen to somebody else is also verbally abusive to a child when it's coming from an adult. Children believe everything that adults in their lives tell them. So, they might not believe somebody they don't know, but they do believe all of the people in their village who are charged with caring for them as they're growing up. They believe their teachers, they believe their principals, they believe their neighbors, they believe their aunts, uncles, older cousins, grandparents, babysitters, nannies. They believe everything, not just what the parents believe, not just what the parents say. Now, most of the time, parents will win out, but, when somebody calls you names and you're a child, it goes right through your system. You don't have boundaries when you're a child. You're not able to say to, let's say your teacher tells you that was stupid and that you're just acting stupid. It's like if your teacher tells you that, you absolutely believe it. And you don't have any way to think about, wow, that's really more about the teacher than it is about me. It doesn't happen. No, when you're a child, you believe what people tell you. And as a teenager, you still believe what people tell you. Even if you try and act all tough about it and that it doesn't really matter. If they're people who are the adults in your life and they matter to you, then what they tell you matters. I know I watched a man once. I could tell that his son was trying to get his approval. And, the kid was trying to do his best. But obviously, if you're a child, you're not going to do whatever it is, task, as well as an adult that's done it over and over and over again for 50 years. That child is not going to do it as well. And I saw this young man he wasn't a man, he was a teenager. And he was trying to do what his father wanted him to do. And he'd try, and then the father would say, I can't believe you. I just feel like you're such an idiot. How could I have produced somebody that is stupid as you are, and as incompetent as you are, and uncoordinated as you are? Mike, you could just see that child melting into the ground. He was a young teenager, and he was trying to do a sport thing that his father was really good at, and he was a kid. But my guess was that kid was going to either, kill himself doing what he thought was acceptable, or give it up altogether. But you could just see that, it was fracturing his little spirit, hearing this from his father. And I wondered, how many other times has he heard this? Because it didn't seem like it was brand new. It didn't seem like it was something new. And then there was also, I could see in that boy, there was some anger coming up that he was afraid to express, of course, but I saw it. He was gritting his teeth. You could see it as his head was bending down in shame, because he believed it, that he was incompetent, uncoordinated, an idiot, and stupid. These are all names that hurt. They hurt a lot. I know personally that I'm not the most coordinated person around. Okay. But I had someone, and, just a peer, say to me as an adult that I was so uncoordinated. I shouldn't even try that thing I was trying to do. I was like, that didn't feel good. And this person was a peer, and I'm an adult, and we're both adults. And as a result, I can decide, do I really want this person in my life? Or I could say, when you said that really hurt my feelings. Or now that I know about boundaries and I have some, I could think, well, I have some coordinated issues, but you got issues about thinking that you got to call that out on me. And that's really more about you than it is about me. See, all these are adult responses. But when you're a kid, you just take it and take it and take it. There's no way out unless you run away. There's bad ways out besides running away too. And, like suicide, drugs, alcohol, isolation, diving into internet places that you shouldn't be. There's so many ways out when somebody's being abusive to you. And, verbal abuse is also very interesting. That's kind of a understatement. But when you are a child and someone is beating you up, okay, say you're getting physically abused, at some point in your life, you will probably recognize that that's not normal and it's not okay. And you could even say, you might end up in a therapist's office and talk about, my parents used to be physically abusive to me. At some point that wasn't acceptable. Even if you're doing it to your own kids and you're making up excuses that it's okay because that's how we always did it, that it's not acceptable. Because if your kid ends up in the emergency room with a broken arm, you're going to lie about how they got it. You're not going to say, well, I was just beating him up, It's like, no. So at some point, that physical abuse is unacceptable. And if you've been a victim of that as a child, at some point you're going to say, wait, I was just a kid trying to be a kid. And even if I was acting, in a way that would make a grown-up angry, they shouldn't have hit me. They shouldn't have kicked me. They shouldn't have smacked me or slugged me or, any other ways that kids are physically abused. But verbal abuse is not like that. Verbal abuse is different. It goes in, it creates your reality for you as a child, and it starts to help you. It starts to define you for who you think you are. Now, I've said before that your brain believes everything you think. Okay? So if you think that you're stupid because you've been told this over and over and over again, or you're an idiot because you've been told this over and over again, you're thinking it, and your brain starts to believe it. And so you may start actually believing this and saying that, well, I can't do anything anyway. I'm an idiot. You start to believe it. Versus physical abuse, at some point you say, wait, that wasn't true. That wasn't right. Because all along, if you've been called names or verbally abused by grown-ups, it's making you become who you are, who you become. I knew a kid in school when I was young who couldn't read numbers backwards. I mean, we know now that he had severe dyslexia. And so, people told him, I was sitting there, where it's like, you're so stupid, you're so dumb. If you just pay attention, you can't even, tie your shoes. You're so stupid and so dumb. And, later on, I ran into this person, and they had a master's degree. And I said, wow, you've really done some good work in your life. And he said, yeah, as soon as I realized that I was dyslexia, I got some help for it, and I went back to school and I got a master's degree. And I said, well, I guess you weren't dumb at all. And it's like, even when I said that, it was like he went, oh, yeah, I guess I'm not. So he even knew, but he hadn't really challenged that. It hadn't even really come up to his reality that people had said that to him. And it was just a shock to him, saying, wow, I guess when I said to him, I guess you're not so dumb after all. It was like he'd forgotten, but it really hadn't hit him. And he said, yeah, wow, that makes it hard. It sure does. So, being verbally abused as a child or as a teenager is so destructive to a person's spirit, because they believe everything the grown-ups tell them. I had a woman once who had, been a drug addict, had gone out and was a prostitute and really had a rough life. And then she got clean and sober and started to clean up and, change her life. And, I asked her one day, I said, what? It's like, you seem to be doing okay with the drugs. Do you have a feeling that you want to go out and use drugs again? She said, no, not at all. And I said, well, what's the hardest part about this whole process for you? And she said that her father had always called her a whore when she was young. That whenever she'd wear, like a sweater, sweaters are not known for being really baggy unless you look for one. And so, he called her a whore for all kinds of reasons that weren't even true, weren't even real about her. She was just busy being a teenager, starting to become a woman, and it upset her father so much that he started calling her a whore. And she said, that's really been hard to stop booing prostitution. It's like she wasn't doing it anymore, but she said she thinks sometimes, I should go out and do that. And then I don't know why I think that. Well, I think somebody really important to you told you that that was your role in life. It is so important. I know that right now I've been reading about parenting and new ways to parent and new ideas about parenting. And on one of the things which is why this came up again, one of the authors that I read, I can't remember her name right now, said that, positivity and not toxic positivity, because if the kid, forgot to study for their spelling test and they get words wrong that they should have got right because they knew them, you say, oh, well, you did such a great job anyway. The kid knows that you're lying to him, okay? This is not a good thing. But to, say more positive, affirming things to children, like, I know you're doing your best. I know sometimes we forget. I know that you can do it, and give them some inspiration when you know they can, not things that they can't do. It's like, if your child is not cut out to be a marathon runner, you don't say, okay, now go run that marathon. I know you can. Like, be realistic. Like, I know you can do these spelling words. Let me help you. I know you can do this math. Let me help you. And so it takes time, attention, and energy, just what I've talked about before. But the use of words like inspirational words and letting them know that they're important. Not more important, not less important, but they're very important to you, and that they have value in this world. Now, I worked with people over many, many years who were abused as children. And in my legacy workshop, when they were finished getting rid of all the emotional energy that didn't belong to them, like shame, I would say to them, you really are a valuable human being. You have worth in this world. And, grown adults who never knew that would just sit there and start to cry. No one had ever told them that as children. And now I was a person who had some authority. I was telling them that as an adult. And I believed it. And I still believe it. And so it would go in. That doesn't mean, like, you tell them they're the greatest in the whole world and they could do every single thing they want, because that might not be true. So, I was watching a father the other day with his 3 or 4-year-old son, and they were doing some, playing around and doing some things. And then the father had to do something else, and the son went off and went over to something that probably wasn't a good idea. It could have been dangerous. And when the father noticed, instead of yelling and screaming and calling the kid an idiot, or, he said, oh, that's not a toy. Don't touch it. Come back over here. So you see, he gave the child information. He told the child, you're not going to do that. Here, do this. Which, come over here. The child turns around, walks right over. No shame, no tears. I just wanted to applaud. It's like, yay. Maybe people in my profession could be out of a job if that kind of parenting were to happen. But that's, the child wants the time, attention, and energy, and they don't need it 24/7. But to yell and scream at them, call them names, and make them feel like they don't have any value, and make them feel like they're ashamed, that they should be ashamed. You're an idiot. That doesn't help. It doesn't help children. And if you wonder what those words are, what they feel like, and who says them, think about your own childhood. Think about the things that were said to you that really hurt you. And sense the amount of pain that caused you and shame that caused you. Because if you can do that, then you can recognize how important it is that words matter.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Donna podcast here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Dr. Donna podcast is copyright 2023 Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.